Okay, hopefully people can hear me now. Okay, so as I was saying, today is National Batter Day, and it is also National Crab Stuffed Flounder Day. I didn't know that was a thing, but that is today. And now my prompter isn't working. Guys, it's one of those days. Not sure what's going on. There we go. National Drink Wine Day. I think I should have a glass of wine after all of our technical issues right in this one moment. We're good. We're going. We're rolling. Okay. Resident birthdays for today, we have John D. and John T. Staff birthdays, we have Veronica, Edward, and Afosa from nursing, Anne Marie from our CHA, and Emily from the museum department. Happy birthday to everyone. Our famous birthday for today is John Travolta, born John Joseph Travolta, February 18th in Englewood, New Jersey. He is best known as an American actor, dancer, and singer. His breakthrough role came in Saturday Night Fever, which aired in 1977, and Grease in 1978, together with his co-star Olivia Newton-John. They had worldwide success with the single You're the One That I Want, reaching #1 on the pop charts in more than 10 countries around the world. He has also starred in a number of other movies, including Staying Alive, Look Who's Talking, Pulp Fiction, Get Shorty, Primary Colors, The Taking of Pelham, 1, 2, 3, Wild Hogs, and Hairspray, being nominated and winning multiple awards along the way. So happy birthday to all. Our menus for today, we have entree for lunch will be chicken parm, spaghetti, marinara sauce, broccoli, and cauliflower with garlic sauce, with vanilla ice cream for dessert. Dinner will be tomato bisque soup. Our entree will be fish and cheese on a bun with a cucumber pineapple salsa, and dessert will be Jell-O. So those are our meals today. That's the news of what's happening in the home for today. So moving over to some events that are happening for Black History Month that you guys can all take part in. They are all free and they're all virtual. This comes by way of the Smithsonian Magazine. And they said, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, many museums and cultural institutions around the country are opting to shift their Black History Month lineups for the month of February from in-person to online-only affairs. The result is a creative curation of art exhibits, concerts, panel discussions, and but safely through virtual means. So here are more than a dozen free events to mark on your calendar. So here are some exhibitions that are happening. The National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C. is hosting a comprehensive exhibition focused on the life of Pauli Murray, a civil rights activist who was also the first African American woman ordained into the Episcopalian priesthood. Pauli Murray's Proud Shoes takes a genealogical look at her family history from the 1834 Bill of Sale for her great-grandmother to detail about a soldier who fought in the Civil War. And then we go to another one across the country in the Bay Area. The Oakland Museum of California examines the Black Power movement in California with Black Power, a show comprised of photographs, posters, and other artifacts, beginning with rallies led by the Black Panthers in the 1960s to more modern-day Black Lives Matter demonstrations. In keeping with the theme of activism, the African American Museum of Philadelphia plays host to Through His Eyes, a collection of black and white photographs of local youth activists who participated in the civil rights movement. Meanwhile, the American Writers Museum in Chicago has uploaded its popular Frederick Douglass Agitator exhibition as an online show that explores the lifetime of the esteemed abolitionist, writer, and statesman through handwritten manuscripts, portraiture, and more. The National Afro-American Museum and Cultural Center near Daytona, Ohio, is offering curator-led video tours of two of its current exhibitions. The first, Queens of the Heartland, Mary Church Terrell, a suffragist and writer. The second is The Art of Soul, which is a national juried art show featuring works by artists that focus on the impact want to tune into any of that. Again, this is all on computer, so you guys can tune in. Actually, you can click on to your computer on an iPad or anything like that. You can look at all of these wonderful events. So speaker and panel discussions throughout the month of February. The Archives in Washington, D.C. will be offering a full schedule of talks and panel discussions for Black History Month. One particular event that's worth noting is the Black Family Representation, Identity, and Diversity, which takes place February 25th at 7 p.m. So these have specific day and time. All the other ones before are exhibits that you can just go onto the website and check out. So this one takes place on February 25th. I think that's next week, all of these events. So want to make sure I mention them ahead of time. This event will focus on Black family life throughout history, literature, the arts, and social policy. It's hosted by Ida E. Jones, an activist at Morgan State University. And the event will include panelists Allison Parker, the author of Unceasing Militant, The Life of Mary Church Terrell, Darius Young, author of Robert R. Church Jr., and the African American Political Struggle. On February 23rd, the Cooper Hewitt Smithsonian Design Museum in New York City, right here, is hosting a panel of curators discussing the 20-year career of the late fashion designer Willie Smith, who is known for his affordable yet avant-garde designs. New York's Museum of Food and Drink has a menu of events on the African diaspora on tap, including growing rice, a migration story from seed to plant. On February, this one we missed, was on February 16th. It was called Coastal Roots, tracing the history of ancestral farming and cooking in Georgia. And then on February 18th, the California African American Museum in Los Angeles presents In Conversation, Quincy Troop and Erin Aubrey Kaplan on Miles Davis, a deep dive discussion on the famed jazz trumpeter. So those are some events that are taking place. Also, the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute in Alabama will be presenting a slate of events from an interactive town hall discussion. And then on February 18th, today, will take place a Genealogy 101 lesson with experts. And lastly, on February 19th, Chicago's Field Museum presents a rare examination of its famed Africa, an exhibit with a panel featuring curators and designers who launched in 1993. So that is some of those panels that are taking place. And it's really great that even during this time, I know that all of us are in quarantine and we can't get out and we can't do a lot of the things that we normally would do, especially here. We can't do a lot of the programs that we would normally take part in. So it's really great to be able to kind of travel all around the world. We saw Chicago and California, Georgia and Ohio and New York. So take a trip just traveling to different cultural places and museums. And so this part also is museums aren't the only cultural institutions shifting their Black History Month offerings to virtual events. So, now in its 35th year, the Brooklyn Academy of Music in New York City is hosting its annual Brooklyn Tribute to Martin Luther King Jr. It's an hour-long concert featuring songs, poems, and spoken word tributes dedicated to the much-lauded civil rights activist and Baptist minister, and that is available through February 28th. Again, free. I actually took a sneak peek of that one, and that looks really great. And then we have performers from this include Sing Harlem and Grammy-winning musician P.J. Morton. And we also have the Chicago Children's Choir is also celebrating Black History Month through song. So for any of our music listeners out there, people who appreciate music, this may be right up your alley. They're having an annual concert, but this time on the digital stage. It'll be on Facebook Live. So if you have a Facebook, you can check this out. The one-time event takes place on February 25th and will include performances by youth singers as well as Grammy Award-winning artists like Lisa Fisher and musical ensemble Ranky Tanky. And then the last one, and I thought this one was really cool, back in New York City, Village of Preservation will be hosting a different multimedia event on February 23rd when tour guides Derek Edwards and Eric Chase embark on Black Bohemia, a virtual village walking tour, which will take viewers through the city's popular village neighborhood by following in the footsteps of famous Black artists who called the area home. And it's going to include writers Alex Haley and playwright Lorraine Hansberry and novelist James Baldwin. So very exciting. And I know some of our residents here even lived in the village. So if that's one you're interested in, you may want to take a peek into that. So those are the events that are happening virtual. I'm sure there are many, many, many more. But those are just some of them. Museums, speaker panelists, and musical events that are happening. So for our positive news story for today, before Barack Obama or Kamala Harris or Hillary Clinton and others raised the bar for what Black and female politicians could accomplish in American politics, Shirley Chisholm shined a light on the unexplored path as both the first Black Congresswoman and first Black woman to embark on a major party presidential campaign. Born in Brooklyn in 1924, Chisholm spent a chunk of her formative years with a grandmother in Barbados before returning to the borough of Kings in the West Indian accent that she remained with for the rest of her life. She spent her early career in the areas of childcare and education, but her days as a college debate champion showcased her rhetorical talents and assertiveness. And by the 1950s, she was using both to elbow her way into the multicultural but male-dominated arena of the New York City politics. After 4 years on the New York State Assembly, Chisholm defeated James Farmer, co-founder of the Congress of Racial Equality, for a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives in 1968. Her colleagues soon learned there would be no overlooking the determined Brooklynite, who immediately objected to her appointment to the House of Agricultural Committee and blasted the government's prioritization of defense spending in her first floor speech. But Chisholm saved her biggest moments on the national stage for 1972 when she formally launched her bid for the Democratic presidential nomination. Riding the slogan of unbought and unbossed, she drew attention to what the press called a campaign through impassioned speeches that highlighted her experiences as a voice of the people. Although she was scorned by influential Black leaders who resented her intrusion into the line, Chisholm did make an unlikely fan in segregationist George Wallace, who received a hospital visit from his fellow Democratic candidate after an attempt on his life that May, and she held a respectable 152 delegates by the time the nomination went to George McGovern at the July 1972 Democratic Convention. Chisholm spent another decade in the House, where she co-founded the Congressional Black Caucus and the National Women's Political Caucus, before returning to education as a college professor and winding down her days as a public speaker. While she fell short of reaching the Oval Office, she made a major impact on American politics with both her successes and failures, her always appointed commentary along the way, providing insight into her viewpoint as an unapologetic trailblazer. So here are a few of things that Shirley Chisholm has said. On her intention to make history, she said, "I'm here to tell you tonight, yes, I dare to say, I'm going to run for the presidency." And she said, regardless of the outcome, they will have to remember that a little 100-pound woman, Shirley Chisholm, shook things up. She said, on the silver lining of her unsuccessful presidential campaign, the next time a woman of whatever color or a dark-skinned person of whatever sex aspires to be president, the way should be a little smoother because I helped pave it. On how to make one's presence felt, she said, if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. On the importance of focusing on domestic issues, she said, unless we start to fight and defeat the enemies in our own country, poverty and racism, and make our talk of equality and opportunity ring true, we are exposed in the eyes of the world as hypocrites when we talk about making people free. On her motivation, she said, I ran for the presidency despite hopeless odds to demonstrate the sheer will and refusal to accept the status quo. On her lack of a need for confirmation, she said, I'm looking for no man walking this earth for approval of what I'm doing. On her legacy, she said, I'd like them to say Shirley Chisholm had guts. That's how I'd like to be remembered. On her influence of her grandmother, she said, Granny gave me strength, dignity, and love. I learned from an early age that I wasn't somebody I didn't need the Black Revolution to teach me that. On her controversial hospital visit to Wallace, she said, he said, what are your people going to say? And I said, I know what they're going to say, but I wouldn't want what happened to you to happen to anyone. On her selection to the House Agriculture Committee, she said, apparently all they know here in Washington about Brooklyn is that a tree grew here. So those are some of her great quotes, things that she said in history. As always, please feel free to give us a call. Any good news you've heard and would like to share on the show, you can do so by dialing 2813. If you're watching on YouTube, feel free to leave us a comment, hit that like button, or hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Remember to tune into Channel 8 later today. We have Wellness with Deborah at 1:30. On A Musical Note with Peter at 2:30. On our stream channel, we have 4 o'clock, Channel 88 at 4 o'clock. We have Dorot Presents Music Appreciation. At 6:30, we have this episode of Good Morning Hebrew Home replayed. And tonight's movie at 7 o'clock will be a documentary about Nina Simone. So classically trained pianist, Black Power icon, and legendary recording artist Nina Simone lived a life of brutal honesty, musical genius, and tortured melancholy. In this epic documentary, director Liz Garbus interweaves never-before-heard recordings and rare archival footage together to create an unforgettable portrait of one of the least understood yet most beloved artists of our time. So please tune into everything we have going on today. It's a good snowy day to watch everything we have going on. Thank you for joining us today. Once again, this has been Olivia Cohen with Good Morning Hebrew Home. We will see you same time, same place, same channel. Cohen out.